Prednisone can make you feel so strange, like a ghost on Halloween. It has no skin. Well, prednisone and other steroids mess with skin. And I'm going to tell you the story of my aunt and her skin today because it shows so many things that are so sad about prednisone. They're just heartbreaking. So my aunt was misdiagnosed. Spoiler alert, going to get to that at the end. She was misdiagnosed. But in the process of her misdiagnosis, she was given prednisone, methylprednisolone medrol dose packs, and Brio-Ellipta, the inhaled corticosteroid. She actually took this for a whole year, even though she didn't actually have any breathing problems. Yeah, they told her she had breathing problems, and she doesn't actually have them. So what is the consequence of that much exposure to steroids, especially when you don't need them? Let me show you. So right after, she says, immediately after stopping the Brio-Ellipta, this started happening to her. So her skin just tears. It's really terrible. And she gets these lesions. They're called purpura lesions. There's several types of purpura. There's actinic purpura. There's purpura lesions from steroids. And there's purpura like I had. My diagnosis is actually idiopathic thrombocytopenia purpura. So I had this like bullseye on my arm of that color of purpura. It's like a medical term for a purple colored lesion on your arm where there's something weird going on with the bleeding, that the skin isn't doing the proper thing in keeping the blood below the skin. There's somehow red blood cells infiltrating into the dermis layer and leaving a lesion. So this is her lesion. And you can see on her forearms, she gets them all over. She says only on the top of her forearms. She says that even just a tiny bump will tear the skin. She says it's like paper. This is underneath the Band-Aid. It takes forever to heal, she says. It's so thin. It's like paper. So here's more of her lesions. That's her whole forearm and wrist. She says that the ones on her hand, they heal in about a week, but the ones on her forearm take about 3 weeks to a month to heal. I'll get to that in a minute. So this actinic purpura, steroid-induced weirdness on skin, what is going on? Why is this happening? I want to read a few of her words for you. She said, steroids can cause the skin of the forearms to bruise and tear easily if taken when older. It's called actinic purpura and no cure. She says, I have to wear long sleeves the rest of my life, and bruising and tearing can happen even through sleeves. One more steroid nightmare. And then I already told you, she said the ones on her hands go away in a week and the forearms take a month. But what's interesting is on the underside of her arms, she doesn't get any of that, the underside or other parts of the body, just the forearms that were exposed to ultraviolet UV rays when younger. Her dermatologist told her it was caused by the Brio. And she said she had no bruising at all until she stopped taking the Brio inhaler. She said, I'm not a sun worshiper, but I never have spent my life covering my arms with sunscreen since I've always had more olive skin. And so she's so mad at her misdiagnosis. So let me show you a picture of her misdiagnosis. She had this severe pain in her back, and they thought maybe it was some breathing issue or they couldn't figure it out. And finally, after over a year, tons of doctors, test after test after test, one of them finally said, let's do a swallow test on you. Let's just see what happens when you swallow. And this is what happened. You can see it looks almost pink, like a heart. That's not supposed to look like this. It's supposed to be nice round shaped stomach. But she had this hernia right here that her stomach was being constricted and her esophagus was being constricted. It was a paraesophageal hernia. And so there was incredible pain in this area. And she was told it was all in her head. She was told she was making it up and maybe just go get on some antidepressants or something. She had to use pain medication just to get through the day. Well, when they finally went and fixed this, she didn't need any more pain medication and it wasn't in her head. How many of you felt that way? If you haven't, comment below. I felt that way. Oh man. So she's not the only person who feels this way. I've had several people reach out to me recently and tell me, and I want to read their words too. So if this is happening to you, you can know you're not the only one. So this first person said she has petechiae or ruptured blood vessels on her forearm and it goes away in a few weeks. Sounds just like my aunt. Another person said, my hair is also falling out and is now very thin, as well as my skin is so thin that all I have to do is rub something or scratch an itch and I get red spots where the blood pools under the skin. My arms usually look like I've been in a fight. Your choice is which is the worst one. Another person said, the capillary superficiality is something you don't mention, but it's one side effect like moon face that is visible to others. My understanding is that it doesn't go away after cessation. So when it doesn't go away, she says, after stopping prednisone. So another person said, she has thin skin that easily bruises and tears. My skin comes off with band-aids. I can actually pull my skin off with my fingers. The sores are easy to get infected and difficult to heal, even though I am not a diabetic. Another person said, my skin is now so thin, I am covered in stretch marks. Next person said, my skin is like paper. The seventh person said, she has thinning skin on her lower legs, cuts and bruises, etc. And the eighth person said, it makes me bruise easily. So this is not common. I was surprised at how many people mentioned it. I personally had a really hard time telling whether it was the prednisone or my disease causing me to have weird skin issues, because my disease actually does cause the purpura and weird bruising. And so I had it too, but I couldn't tell you if it was the prednisone or my disease. And it scared me every time I would get a weird bruise or little red dots called petechiae. And the weird bruises are called ecchymosis, because I didn't know if my disease was coming back and I'd have to go and get another blood test and do a whole nother roller coaster of steroid medication. So this always terrified me when it happened to me, because I have a bleeding disorder, autoimmune condition. But for most people, this is not a bad, like it's not anything worse than itself. Like, it is painful, it is not pretty, it is uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean anything else is going on. Where that's what it meant for me. It meant that I was bleeding inside. Whereas for people who it's just on your arms, hands, maybe your face or neck area, places that have had a lot of UV light, sun exposure throughout your life, then it doesn't have any long-term consequences for you. And so for you, at least, it's just cosmetic and painful. You don't need to go get a blood test necessarily like I did, right? So then how does this even happen? How does prednisone do this? Well, prednisone causes not only osteoporosis, right, where your bones are thin, where calcium and collagen and magnesium and vitamin D are being leached from the bone, and it has more holes, and it's normally supposed to be like this, and it's now like this. There's holes. It's not as strong as it was. The lattice structure holding your bones up is more holy. That's what porosis means, porous. There's more holes in the bone. Well, what's interesting is collagen is that lattice work structure in your bones, and it's also the lattice work structure on your skin. And what they found is that when prednisone is causing this, it's that collagen that is causing the things to fall apart. Let me read this directly straight from a scientific article published in PubMed. It says, Dermatoporosis So osteoporosis is bones, dermatoporosis is skin. Derm equals skin. Skin atrophy in dermatoporosis is due to an alteration of collagen. These collagen changes may correspond to changes in bone density, similar to that seen in osteoporosis. The postulate, like their theory, is that bone collagen also changes along with skin collagen, which leads to an alteration in bone density. The pronounced skin atrophy, like the loss of skin, breaking down of skin, caused by the photoaging and ultraviolet radiation exposure makes the dermal vascular network very sensitive to the slightest trauma or any shearing force. So let me translate that into English instead of medicalese. This is caused because normally there's a really strong structure holding your bones and your skin together. Collagen is the main thing doing this. Prednisone is breaking down the collagen connection somehow. We're not sure how, whether it's depleting your protein in your body, whether it is depleting the actual collagen, whether there's some connector in the collagen area. There's not great research showing precisely why it's happening, but prednisone does just steal from your skin, your bones, your kidneys, your liver, everything, and makes you waste away. And it's doing this for a reason. It's doing this because it's using all of those ingredients, those important things in your body, and using them to save your life, to turn off the inflammation, to stop the pain, to whatever it's doing for you. It's doing so by stealing from other systems. And one of those systems, unfortunately, is the skin. So now that you know what other people describe it as, now that you know how potentially it's happening, what can you possibly do about it? Again, there's just not a lot of great research here. So I'll tell you what my aunt said she's doing. So my aunt said she uses Dermend along with arnica. She says it doesn't necessarily do much to help, but it helps with bruises apparently. So maybe that helps, maybe it doesn't. And then arnica is another cream that she uses that might be helping potentially, who knows. Then potential other things that have been theorized to help include tretinoin or retinoic acid creams. So it's a prescription strength cream based on vitamin A, and it's been shown that it potentially can help build back up the collagen. Maybe. There's just not great research. For protecting against those skin tears, my aunt wears protective sleeves, and you can find these online. She says she has to wear them all the time, year round. Doesn't matter whether it's hot outside. If she doesn't wear them, she can get the skin tears. So you can get protective sleeves, and she wears them underneath her other clothing. Then, since this is based on collagen, theoretically to me, it would make sense to supplement with collagen. Collagen is the main ingredient in bone broth. So if you were to eat lots of good chicken noodle soup made from actually like stewing that bone from a good pasture raised chicken or from a great cow that's grass fed, getting good high quality collagen from a really good bone broth, I think would be a really, that makes sense to me. If collagen isn't working well, let's give some good collagen, right? So there are some great collagens out there. You can check out my link below for the ones I recommend. And then the best treatment is always prevention. So for everyone out there who hasn't had this happen yet, this is why we wear sunscreen. This is why we wear long sleeves, so that consequences like this can't happen later in life. So it's a lot harder for our skin to just fall apart as we age, because this can happen in just older people too. But for older people who are also prescribed steroids, that's when it happens even more. They say 12% of people over the age of 50 have it, 30% of people over the age of 65 get some sort of purpura lesions on their skin. So this happens way too often, and it's sad. And for some people, it's just a part of aging. But for those who are taking steroids, it isn't just aging, because essentially prednisone is aging you faster, right? So if you have something that you found helpful for skin tears, for steroid-induced purpura, for other weird thin skin issues from prednisone or other steroids, please comment below of what you found helpful to help all of those suffering like me and my aunt especially, so we can find ways. So I am Dr. Megan, your prednisone pharmacist, and I am here to not just help you survive prednisone, but find ways to thrive while on prednisone. Signing off.